Hi, everyone. I'm welcoming you today to another episode on the Living Life Naturally podcast. So happy that you've joined us. And I would just love to ask you if you're listening to our podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, if you would give us a 5-star review, that would be great. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so that I can get more out to you for our podcast, especially when we're talking about things that are so relevant to today for women who are in midlife, who are trying to live a better, healthier lifestyle. So today I have Nagina Abdullah with me. She is a weight loss coach for women in midlife, and she's the founder of the top-rated website masalabody.com. Nagina has a degree in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley, and she earned an MBA at NYU. So she has helped more than 1,500 women in midlife successfully lose weight permanently and create a lifestyle change. Nagina teaches women to boost their metabolism naturally to burn fat, even when nothing else has worked. So she focuses on adding and combining natural metabolism boosting foods to reduce belly fat and get women like you and I unstuck so that they can live in their dream body. And who doesn't want that? We're always struggling during this period of life to find a good way to lose weight. So a huge welcome to you, Nagina. We're so thrilled to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Yes. So where are you joining us from today?
I live in New Jersey. I live right
Ah,
outside of New York, about 40 minutes outside of New York.
how's the weather there?
Oh, well, usually it should be nice, but it's very rainy right now. It's like
Ah,
endless rain.
ah.
Endless rain, really.
So I'm really interested about the weight loss segment because it's one of the questions I'm asked so often is why can't I lose weight now I'm in my 40s or 50s or I'm in perimenopause? And of course, our metabolism, as we know, is all over the place. So I'm looking forward to a great chat with you today. But first of all, I'd love to know what brought you into this type of work.
Absolutely. Well, I personally struggled with my weight for my whole entire life. I'm in midlife now. But I had been somebody that had tried every diet when I was in my 20s and in my
Yeah.
30s. I tried, Weight Watchers. I tried Atkins. I tried South Beach. I tried to exercise a lot. I tried to eat less. And some of those things did work. Like they did help me at that time. But I would really only be able to lose, about 10 to 12 pounds. And then I would just start doing all the activities that helped me get there because I had felt so restricted. So I started eating all the sugar that I had taken out of my diet. I started eating more. I stopped having a structure and the weight would just always come back on. So I was
Right.
constantly in a yo-yo. And then I had my two children and I was working in a demanding job. And I realized at that time I was at the highest weight of my life because I was so busy and I just had two kids. And at that time, I decided I don't have time to do this yo-yo up and down dieting anymore. I need to make a change. I need to figure out a lifestyle shift. And so I started reading scientific articles and research from my degree in molecular and cell biology that I had access to. And I started realizing that instead of restricting our foods, we could actually add foods and work on our metabolism versus work on restriction. It's a different approach and it's more of
Yes.
a lifestyle approach. And instead of just taking foods out without replacing them, it's more about adding foods and then you start to get off of sugar naturally and then you don't and then it's an easy road to get to your goal and to stay there. And so I started using those suggestions. I started adding more food, which we'll talk about exactly what those things are. I started flavoring my food with metabolism boosting spices as well. And within 9 months, I lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
This, put it in context, I lost 20 pounds more than I had ever been even before I had children. I was incredibly in shape. Like people would come to me all the time and say, "What did you do? How do you look like that after children? What happened?" And so that's how I started my blog, masalabody.com, where I started sharing my secrets, my food strategies, my mindsets, and started growing my business from there. And now that's my main business. It's grown. I've now coached over 1,600 women. And just to add one final touch to this is when I entered midlife, I actually gained weight. And I thought I would be immune to it because I thought I was so
Mm.
healthy. I thought I knew how to do everything, but perimenopause hit me like a truck and I started bloating. I gained 20 pounds over the course of 2 years. A little bit of it was gradual. Then some of it came on really quickly. And we're going to talk about exactly why that is because guess what? I'm so excited to announce I've now lost 16 of those 20 pounds and I'm
Mm.
almost back to where I was, at my goal ideal weight. But this time, with more muscle and more tone and even a healthier body than before. And this is all possible. It's just that things change in midlife and you have to do things
Yes.
differently, but you still can get your body back, or you still can get your body for the first time that you want. And it's almost like a non-negotiable because if we don't fight for our bodies right now, it's really easy for us to get very low metabolisms, very low energy, very low bone strength, muscle mass. All of these things are working against us, and we can fight all of that, and it can actually be fun.
Yeah.
So,
That's really exciting. From a similar background in that I call myself a professional yo-yo dieter. And unfortunately, when I had my kids, well, the first one, I was still in England. They never told us to watch our weight. They never told us after we had our babies that we really should be taking care of our body and get it back to normal. So by the time I had my second one in the US, the doctors were like, no, you've gained way too much weight. You just can't do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why is this so different to how it was when I had my first baby? But as you say, the yo-yo dieting, yeah, I lost that. I also was a Weight Watchers member, and I also did the cabbage soup diet. And I would lose the weight, but then I would put it back on, and even more of its little friends came along with it. And so in midlife, I absolutely found that my metabolism tanked, my weight increased steadily. And I know because I learned through the clinic I went to help with my migraines, I learned how bad the sugar is and the processed foods. And that to me was a huge, huge change in lifestyle for me and started making a difference to me. So I would love to know how you boost your metabolism and how it helps, especially in midlife, to lose weight. Because so many of my people, that's one of their things. I've always been able to lose the weight and keep it off. Now it's come on again and it just won't come off like it used to. I've gone to the gym, I've burned the calories and still nothing.
yes, yes, absolutely. Well, so what happens in midlife is that there are changes that happen to our body, and a lot of times as women, we blame ourselves for not working hard enough and for not, having enough willpower or just being perfect
Mm.
enough. And what you could see is if you look around, you'll notice this is happening to a lot of people, and it's happening to even the healthiest of people. And so there is actually something that has absolutely changed. And I was really confused when it happened to me because I had been doing the same things for almost 10 years and I had complete control over my body. And then all of a sudden, the same things I was doing, like it stopped working, but it had been working. It's not as if I changed anything or I stopped anything. And even I kept looking at myself and thinking, well, maybe during COVID, I didn't work out as much. Maybe my muscles gone down. Maybe, I kept thinking about the different things. But what I found out after I studied this intensively, because I realized I need to figure out what is going on. Like,
Mm.
why is this happening? So, what's happening in midlife is that our hormones obviously are declining, but our hormones, especially estrogen, was protecting us from what's called inflammatory cytokines. So these cytokines, these are molecules that are released in our body, but estrogen protects us from that. And so we don't have the inflammation that many of us are experiencing in midlife. So as our estrogen declines, those inflammatory cytokines are released and we experience more inflammation. And then also, because our estrogen is declining, we have a new relationship with cortisol. And so our cortisol is more sensitive, and we're kind of competing with the same organs to create cortisol and estrogen. And so what's happening is that our cortisol could go up much quicker. So many of us are realizing that things that didn't stress us out before are really stressing us out, like to a point that we may not be able to even function. And that actually has happened to me where I can't even think, like if I see clutter or something like that. And it's because clutter to me is a form of stress. And so my cortisol goes, way up, or my stress goes way up. And so because of this change of what's happening, what happens to our body is that our fat starts to be distributed in different places because of the way that our hormones are changing. And so our fat used to be distributed, more evenly on our body, more on our hips and in our thighs. That's also due to fertility reasons. And so now it's stopped being distributed there, and it's more distributed on our belly, though you could also experience it all over your body. And so there are definitely things that are happening that are very different. Now, I've worked with, I said over 1,600 midlife women, and almost every single woman in midlife is describing the same things that are happening.
Right. Yes.
Right. So that means that it's not our fault. It's not something we are doing. Our body is changing. And so the other thing that's happening, that's starting, even a little bit earlier than midlife, is our muscle mass starts to decline at perhaps about 1% a year, and it can increase up to 3% a year. So as our muscle is declining, every ounce of muscle it burns more calories than fat. So when our muscle declines, that means our metabolism is decreasing. And so not only is our estrogen decline creating more inflammation, not only are we distributing fat on our belly, but we're also storing more fat in general because our metabolism is decreasing. And then one more thing that makes a really big difference is that our gut health really starts to decline in midlife. And what that means is we can fix it. We can do things that are actually natural, but you're going to notice that things that our body was doing easily, it's not as quick, it's not as efficient as before. So one specific area is our liver. So our liver is responsible for detoxing toxins, hormones, foods. And when our liver is not acting at its full potential, like it likely was more in our 30s and 20s, you start to hold more inflammation because your body's not able to excrete foods as much as it was. And so because of our liver not being able to detox foods, we have more of like a backup, and that causes even more inflammation. There's a couple other things that happen in our gut, but gut health is another area that is so important in midlife. And that really comes from fixing it really comes from the types of foods we're eating. It's not about the calories. In fact, a lot of times, in most cases, women need to eat more because we need more nutrients to replenish our guts so that our guts can actually detox the foods that we need to, and we can have a slimmer body, a slimmer stomach, and not have that bloating and swelling that's happening. So those are multiple things that are going on in midlife. It's a real thing, but it's actually something that's not that hard to change when you know what to do.
Right. So I know you also talk about, when it comes to the metabolism in midlife, ways that you can add the timing of the foods and the pairing of the foods. And this is often very confusing for people. So can you explain your take on that for us?
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the greatest things to do to learn is how to combine your foods and how to time them, because this way you can eat your favorite foods. You just learn how to do it in the right way so you're not gaining fat. So now the reason that it's important to time and combine our foods, especially in midlife, is because when we eat foods that break down really quickly into sugars, like most carbohydrates and all sugars, basically they're breaking down to sugars. All carbohydrates are going to break down to sugars. And when we have sugars in our bloodstream, that elevates our blood sugar. And when we elevate our blood sugar and then we bring it down, what's happening is if it comes down really quickly, we are going to be storing more fat. Our body is storing that sugar as fat. Our body's released insulin, and the insulin is taking that sugar out of the blood and storing it as fat. And so the way to avoid this is to really work on not having blood sugar ups and downs. If you can have a day where your blood sugar is fairly stable throughout the whole day, this is the secret of losing weight. This is what happened for me when I lost 40 pounds is I learned to balance my blood sugar. And this is how I help women right away is I balance their blood sugar. And this one thing helps you lose so much weight. And then you can start doing more after that. But in order to balance your blood sugar, what's important to do, first of all, is to learn to add more of certain foods to your diet that help you keep your blood sugar even. And that is specifically adding more protein. So having protein starting at breakfast, what happens with when you add protein is that protein is not a sugar, so it doesn't digest very quickly. In fact, it digests fairly slowly, and it also takes energy to digest protein. So you're burning calories while you're digesting it, but it doesn't cause that blood sugar spike. And so when you have protein and then you pair a sugar or a carb, even something as simple and healthy as fruit, if you're having fruit by itself, it's going to spike your blood sugar, even though it's fruit. And yes, it is good for you. It is good for your gut health, but it's still causing some fat storage. But when you have that fruit with a protein, or if you have a healthy fat, like say nuts or peanut butter or an avocado, if you have something like that, that's going to slow the digestion of that sugar. And so your insulin's not going to be released as quickly. Your blood sugar is not going to spike, and you're going to store less fat. And so combining is one element. Let me give you some examples, and then I want to talk about timing for sure. So some combinations that are really helpful are, for example, I mentioned fruit. So in the morning, if you are wanting to have fruit, have some eggs on the side, or have a Greek yogurt. Have a Greek yogurt with berries. And what you could also do to keep your blood sugar lower is to sprinkle on some cinnamon. And so if you sprinkle cinnamon is a natural spice that brings down your blood sugar as well. So imagine what a great breakfast. Greek yogurt, you have some berries in there, you sprinkle some cinnamon. If you want to add some nuts on there, that healthy fat is also going to help you slow the absorption of the sugar that's in the berries or the fruit, and then also a little bit of sugar in that Greek yogurt. You can also have eggs. And so you can have fruit with eggs for breakfast. And, coming back to that protein element, protein is a key aspect to add because you also feel less cravings for sugar or for foods that are going to cause that fat gain. And the thing about protein is that you also want to make sure you're having enough protein. And I recommend having 30 grams of protein at least at every meal. And this is so that you will increase your metabolism. You're going to help restore your muscle mass. You're going to you're going to help maintain your muscle mass, even if you're not working out, just by eating protein. Your muscle mass you'll be able to maintain it and at least avoid losing it as quickly. But if you have less than 30 grams, you're going to start feeling cravings for sugar, and then you're going to start feeling like you have to resort to willpower. But actually what you can do is just have a structure of how much protein you need. And that way you don't even have sugar cravings. And this is like revolutionary. It happened to me. And, maybe it even happened to you, Lynn, where it's like, once you start learning what to eat, it's completely mind blowing how easy it can feel. And so the thing about 2 eggs is 1 egg is only 6 grams of protein. So if you're having 2 eggs, that's only 12 grams of protein. And so what I recommend is adding another about 20 grams of protein onto it. And you can do that easily if you were to have, if you're making your eggs, you could do a cup of egg whites with those 2 eggs. Egg whites will give you 20 grams of protein, and it's all you do is make a bigger omelet or a bigger scramble. And by eating more of this ahead of time, you're gonna reduce your cravings later. But you can also do 2 eggs with like 2 turkey sausage that are organic. You can also do 2 eggs with a Greek yogurt, and that's going to give you 30 grams. And then you also have that fruit in it. Those are some examples of really good
Mm,
breakfasts
mm.
that give you 30 grams of protein, and then you combine them in those ways. And then for like lunch or dinner, if you're having a carb like rice or quinoa or potatoes, you can still have all of those. You can even have, certain breads I recommend that are not quickly digesting. So breads that are higher fiber breads, like Ezekiel bread is a great bread. That you can have, or any higher fiber bread, and you combine that with a protein like chicken, or even, chicken, turkey, fish, beef, have that, and then have some vegetables. And so when you have those few things, vegetables have fiber in them, so they're also slowing your digestion. The protein is slowing your digestion, and if you had just had that carb by itself, you would have elevated your blood sugar and you would have stored more fat. But this is a formula, a very easy formula. In fact, I call it the fat burning food framework, where you combine your foods with protein and veggies, or a low sugar fruit at every meal, along with a carb or a healthy fat. And you have that. And so those are some examples. If you combine your foods, those are really great. Snacks that are really good are things like an apple with 1 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. So don't have the apple alone, have it with 1 to 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. If you're gonna have, you can have celery and guacamole, or if you want to have some chips, you could, but have that guacamole with it, because guacamole is a healthy fat.
Mm.
And so that's going to slow the absorption of those chips, though you could do like celery, carrots as well. Those are other kind of nice dippers. And then one really great snack that a lot of my clients love is doing one date with a tablespoon of peanut butter. And that's a nice match of sweet, but it's not absorbing that quickly. And so those are some combinations. Just remember to always combine a protein or a healthy fat with a healthy carb. And a healthy carb is a carb that has more fiber in it, like the ones I've been talking about. And then in terms of timing, what's really great is, if there's a lot of studies that show, and graphs that show that if you were to eat, for example, like a tuna sandwich. Let's just use that as an example, a tuna sandwich. It could be a turkey sandwich, it could be a chicken sandwich, it could be anything. But let's just use this example. It has some lettuce and 2 slices of bread. If you eat it all together, your blood sugar spikes, let's say up to 60 milligrams, it spikes up 60 milligrams per deciliter, which is the measurement for blood sugar spikes. But if you were to open up the sandwich, and if you were to have the lettuce and the meat, whatever it may be, tuna, turkey, whatever it may be, and have that first, and then eat the bread, your blood sugar would spike 50% of that, and it would only spike up 30 milligrams per deciliter. And that's because your body is taking in that food that is not digesting as quickly, not breaking down to sugar. You're creating an environment where it's not digesting so quickly. And then you add the bread on top. That's going to help you not put on as much, not store as much fat. And, one more hack is, when you eat like this, you realize that you're not even as hungry for those carbs, because you've filled up on the good food, the protein and the veggies. So maybe you eat one piece of bread instead of two, and then you can bring down that spike, even more. Maybe it only goes up 10 milligrams per deciliter or 15 milligrams per deciliter. So really timing your foods helps you a lot. And this is another example of this, is if you were having pasta or pizza, and if you were to eat the pasta or pizza by itself, your blood sugar would spike. But if you had a salad first, and if you had protein on that salad, like meatball, like if you had like a seafood salad, because that's something that's common in a lot of pasta places, or if you had meatballs first with salad and then you had pasta, your blood sugar would spike almost 50% less if you change the timing around. And then of course you hopefully will eat less of that carb as well, because then you won't be as hungry.
Mm.
So these are a lot of things that we can do just by learning about how to eat that really impact our bodies. And in midlife, this is making a huge difference, because these little things go really far. But it's also, based on the foundation of eating more protein and more veggies, and then combining it in the right way when you're adding in
Mm.
carbs during your day.
Mm. And what do you do if you're working with women who are, say, vegetarian?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I work with many vegetarians. So all you do is you swap that out for a vegetarian or a plant-based, completely plant-based protein. So for example, I mean, obviously you could use something like tofu, which is a normal, very common vegetarian protein. But also there's a lot of other proteins that you can use. So lentils are great, but
Mm,
I'm gonna bust a myth right now because a lot of times lentils are thought of as a vegetarian source of protein. And the thing about lentils and beans is that they're an excellent food, but I consider them a healthy carb because they have protein in them, but they also have a lot of carbs in them.
mm,
So a lot of vegetarians will say, well, I eat so many beans, I eat so many lentils, how come I'm not losing weight? Well, it's because you're overeating the carbs without pairing it with enough protein. And so a way to really alleviate this is to add a leaner form of protein, meaning protein without carbs, into the lentils or beans to increase the protein amount without increasing the carbs. And the way you can do that is by adding hemp seeds, which are pure protein and fat, no carbs. You can also add some flax seeds that have a little bit of carbs in them. You can add nutritional yeast. Or you can add, those are like a few different options of things that you can add so that you're leaning out those lentils or beans. But also using chickpea flour, adding flaxseed and hemp seed, you can make chickpea pancakes. You can make chickpea scramble. So it's really about learning the protein sources as a vegetarian or a vegan. And if for people that are vegetarian, you can eat Greek yogurt, you can eat eggs, you can eat egg whites. You have a lot of options along with lentils, beans with hemp seeds or nutritional yeast. And so there's a lot of different options. You still want to keep the same principles in mind where you're having that protein with the healthy carb. And so, a really great plant-based meal for lunch, for example, is having Greek yogurt with garbanzo beans. I have this great like garbanzo bean curry recipe, and then you also have like green beans. So and then or you could do cauliflower rice as your veggie. So then you're doing like it's like rice with or you could do quinoa. You could actually do a healthy carb. You could do quinoa. You could do quinoa, Greek yogurt, and the chickpeas, and then you add some hemp seeds on top of that. And you already have your protein from the Greek yogurt, a little more from the hemp seeds. That's an amazing metabolism boosting lunch. And you are going to notice with the breakfasts I've been mentioning, the lunches, whether it's non-veg or veg, your metabolism is going to increase, and then your fat starts burning off when you approach it like this.
mm, mm. So how about ways that you help people? I know that you have a great spice cheat sheet because I love spices, and I have to say, when I'm thinking about cinnamon, I no longer buy the cinnamon that's like the McCormick that you buy off the shelves. I always buy the one, I think it's called Simply, the organic one, because it's a much healthier form of cinnamon.
Yes. I actually buy that one too. Yes, I love that one too. So do you mean like how do I help people?
So, well, two questions there is what other spices can really help when we're using this combination? And then I'd love for you to tell people about the sweet spice cheat sheet that you have.
Yes, I'm so excited. So, yes, spices are a big part of the way that I lost 40 pounds and then kept it off. Now, after going through perimenopause, figuring out how to bring down that inflammation, release that fat, and get my metabolism higher, spices have been a huge part of that because they have amazing weight loss properties to them, and they also taste good and they make healthy food taste good. This is really important so that it's doable for us to eat healthy. And it's doable for us to have a lifestyle where we're looking forward to what we're eating. So now the spices that I love to share and that a lot of people love adding are cinnamon and adding cinnamon, starting with cinnamon, adding that on top of your fruit in the morning. If you're having a metabolism boosting smoothie, adding it in there. But the easiest way is to add cinnamon into your coffee or tea. And instead of using even, any other sugar or artificial sweetener or even stevia, cinnamon is more powerful than even stevia because it brings your blood sugar down. It doesn't just keep it even like stevia does, and it doesn't elevate it like sugar does, or like a lot of sugar, sugar replacements, even honey will elevate your blood sugar. Cinnamon actually brings your blood sugar down. And so what that means is that you are storing less fat, like you're actually it's helping you burn fat. And it's also giving you that sweet taste that you might be craving. Um, then also another really great spice is turmeric. And turmeric is a beautiful yellow spice, and it's perfect. What it's known for is anti-inflammation. And so it helps us reduce puffiness. It's important that you do combine it with a sprinkle of black pepper, which helps you increase absorption of turmeric. And the best way to use turmeric, it looks, could look intimidating because it's so bright, but it's very mild in flavor. It has hardly any flavor at all. It's a very mild, earthy flavor. And a great way to get the benefits of turmeric is to add a half teaspoon into your eggs in the morning. And so you are already getting that anti-inflammation. It's yellow, it blends with the eggs, it's perfect. And you can also add turmeric. You can sprinkle it on your veggies. You can put it in like any beans you're making. You can put it on any meat along with that black pepper. Those are two good ones. And then one more that I love sharing is cumin. And cumin has been shown in many studies to reduce belly fat. It's actually been proven to do that. And it also has a very smoky, delicious taste. It's really great for meats. It's great for like chicken, for beef, but it's also great on veggies along with coriander. Coriander reduces bloating because it reduces water retention. So cumin, coriander, salt, and pepper on top of your veggies is an amazing combination. And you can use that in so many things. You can use it in your lentils, in your beans. You can use it on your like white fish or chicken. If you're using it on chicken, it would be amazing. And it could be like a barbecue rub going into the summer, on the grill. So those are some really, really great spices to use. And all you have to do is buy those four spices. You could just use those four and they're amazing.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yes, I'd love to share about my sweet spice cheat sheet, which is a gift that I brought for your listeners, Lynn. And the sweet spice cheat sheet has 5 ways to use the sweet spice in your day. And the sweet spice helps to bring down your blood sugar and give you the sweetness that you've been craving, all naturally, completely naturally. I also have a fat burning fire tea. It's a belly fat burning tea that you can have in the evening. It's very easy to make, and a lot of times, if for those of us that want to have wine, it's an amazing replacement for wine that gives you that soothing, comforting feeling. But even if you're not having wine, it's a great way to wind down in the evening. And because of the sweet spice, it helps to activate some fat loss, and it helps to really keep your blood sugar at a good place while you're sleeping. And so you can grab that sweet spice if you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Masala Body. That's my Instagram. And then just DM me the word spice, or DM me the word sweet. DM me the word sweet. I'll send you the sweet spice, and then I'll also tell you about some upcoming workshops and events that I have that are all free, that teach you how to boost your metabolism. So if you can head over to Masala Body on Instagram, and then just put the word, just DM me the word sweet, and I'll get back to you with the sweet spice cheat sheet. And then you can also check me out on my website, masalabody.com, for looking. I have so many success stories, so many women sharing what they've done. And I also have lots of articles about what's working right now for midlife women.
Awesome. I'll put all of the links to those in our chat, in our show notes, so no problem with that. And I believe that you also do some teaching on YouTube, right?
Yes, absolutely. I have my YouTube channel, which you can find me there. It's Nagina at Nagina AB, which is my first 2 letters of my last name at Nagina AB, and you can find me there at YouTube. And I have lots of videos there, absolutely, that you can check out. I mean, I actually show lots of strategies of how I lost 40 pounds and how I've kept it off.
Thanks. That's such awesome information and so important because we all kind of have a tendency feel this is helpless. It's just a hopeless endeavor when we get to this midlife part and we just can't lose the weight. So all of this is wonderful, and I really appreciate all of the valuable information you've shared with us, Nagina.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
It's been fun. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. And thank you for so much for having this platform to share so much really, helpful information for your listeners.
Thanks. You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.